Hi, I'm Sarah Sedwick. Welcome to my studio. This is my online mentorship group session for July 2019. I'm joined by several of my lovely students from around the world, and we are going to do a little demo today talking about underpaintings, full color mixing, Alla Prima painting, and using greens from a tube. I am painting I kind of am doing a weird long vegetable series this month, sort of not on purpose, but it's been happening. And because our challenge theme for July, our group's theme was plein air, a lot of people were going outside painting foliage, getting into greens. I was getting questions about leaves and painting those and maybe adding additional tubes of green to your palette and what that can be like. And so I thought, without having to go outside myself, how can I bring leaves into it? I paint houseplants pretty regularly, but I don't know. I saw someone else do a really inspiring painting of lettuce recently and thought, gosh, I want to try that. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. But the colors that I have on my palette are ivory black, ultramarine blue, chromium oxide green, iridian. This is a brown mixed from colors. This is a purple mixed from colors. Alizarin crimson, cad red light, titanium white in the upper right corner. A mixed orange, cad yellow, cad red, light, cad red light. Cadmium yellow is next, then Hansa yellow and yellow ochre. So a lot of tube colors for me. My normal palette is split primary, 2 reds, 2 yellows, 2 blues. I certainly have added in a few extras today. And then after I posted the palette picture on Facebook, I spent 20 minutes pre-mixing paint. I know it was 20 minutes because I was getting ready to get on with you all this morning, so I was timing it out. What did I do? I made some stuff for my stuff. When I'm pre-mixing my paints before I get started, what I'm trying to do is make a set palette for myself, something that I can then go into and edit with my brush so that almost every brushstroke that I put onto the canvas is a little bit different from the last one. But I want a good starting off place to do that from. And for me, that's the light and the shadow, at least, of the major color families that I see in my subject. So for the bok choy, we have these beautiful dark green leaves up here, and I mixed some midtones. This feels like the lightest light. My guess is that it's going to need to be lightened with my brush as I go forward through the painting, but I like to say that adding white to paint, lightening paint colors, is like putting salt in your food. It's real easy to add more at the end, and it's very hard to get it out once you put in too much. So go slowly adding the white and know that you can always lighten as you go through the painting process. I like to keep things more saturated on my palette at this stage. So the bok choy green, these are my whites for those ribs as they go back toward the bottom. These. So this is my white bok choy in the shadow, I hope. And I have, sorry about the glare, and I have a version that's a little cooler on top and a slightly warmer one. And the base ingredient for these whites, and if I was painting a white dish, anything white fabric, I'd probably approach it from the same way, which is I start by making kind of a flesh tony sort of gray. Often I'll start using my tone color, this orange right here that my blue middle finger is pointing to, is the color that I'm going to tone the canvas with for my underpainting. It's an orange mixed from cad yellow, cad red, alizarin crimson, and ultramarine blue. So I put my main primary players together in that. I add some white to it, and it becomes the base for my chromatic whites that I paint with. So, but it is sort of a peachy orange, so I needed to add some more blue to it, and I think I definitely did do that to make these. Yeah, paint all over myself. I'm confusing myself. All right, so that's where I'm starting. This is some stuff for cast shadows. This is a tint of the purple. Here's a tint of blue. I mixed my kind of ivory black and my ultramarine together. This area down here is me shooting for the negative space. Everything is flipped. So my negative space is these kind of two blue pieces of paper, but I'm not going to show that it's two different blues. It's just there to give me some visual variety to work with. So yeah, so I mixed these kind of gray blues, mostly from ivory black, ultramarine blue, and white. And then for this layer up here, I added Viridian to it. I haven't used a lot of Viridian. I think I could do this painting without the Viridian, but I am going to be using the chromium oxide green a lot. I'll use the Viridian too, but as I was pre-mixing the colors, I was like, well, why did I put this? If I have the ultramarine, I can make a blue-green, a transparent blue-green. But that was my thinking with the chromium oxide green and the Viridian, is that I have an opaque green. It's a very opaque green. It's quite a strong tinter too. I really am not that familiar with this color, but I've been enjoying using it. All right, so I'm already a mess. Let's get some paint on the canvas. This is how I end up with a camera covered in paint. I know it's going to happen, and I don't care. That's what it's for. All right, so bear with me as we zoom in. Oh, it's lovely to be back home and painting. Just got home from a wonderful workshop a couple of days ago, and when you go on a trip, you come home, and you get to paint in your studio again, it's a nice feeling. And if it's not a nice feeling, talk to me about that, because that's what a mentor can help you with. How do I get over my fear of starting? I've been away for a little while. What do I do? Where do I start? So I'm painting on a Masterpiece Canvas Hardcore Pro panel. Hardcore Pro. It's the exact same canvas that I like to use when I paint on stretched canvas, but it's been applied to a masonite panel, so it is rigid, 1/8 inch thick, and I've taped it onto my drawing board. I kind of double hung the tape, so it's not going to fall down. Famous last words. No, it's not going to fall down. So a fairly even tonal wash on the canvas, a mid-tone. That orange I mixed from colors. And taking my number 2 round brush that's been dipped in Gamsol and just grabbing from that same paint, that same mixed orange, I'm going to start blocking in my composition. This bok choy has held up remarkably well, being taken in and out of the fridge by me. And I put it back in the fridge last night, and then I took it out again this morning, and it went right back into the pose. So I'm pleased, bok choy. You are no radish. You are good. Radishes, famously, you got to paint those fast. You want to practice your fast painting, get some radishes. Paint the green parts first, because they are going to wilt before your eyes. Vegetable kingdom. So really, really loose. The paint is kind of a wet, sort of ink-like consistency almost. And I'm not looking at my value study. I'm looking at it a little bit for compositional placement. I did look through a viewfinder, although this is sort of a no-brainer. Really, the questions I was asking myself when I was looking through the viewfinder was, am I going to crop the shadow or not on the side? And kind of by default, I ended up cropping the shadow. Great. It's a little hard to see what you're doing. You can pull some paint off. You have your paper towel. You can wipe the canvas. But if I swish the brush around in Gamsol, I can really pull this paint right up. It's like a dry erase board. I love it so much. So first, my block in is done really, really loosely. Then I can come in and start getting more specific because we want to paint from the general to the specific. Big shapes to small shapes, mid-tone out to the extremes. Certainly big mass of these leaves before launching in. Because if I started here with this rib and didn't block in the rest of this and followed it down and started rendering out the leaves, I don't think I'd be able to fit the whole thing onto this canvas by the time I was finished doing that. All the rest of it would be an afterthought. You kind of have to place everything, get it working, and then come back in and get more specific. Let's pull out some lights. My lightest lights in these dark leaves. Happening here. Here. So I just push the brush around and Gamsol, wipe it, it's dry and clean. I can really pull the paint off a lot more easily when I've done that. And once I get the general deal blocked in, next I get to come in and find my darkest darks. All right, darker darks. So when I want to darken up my underpainting paint, what will I do? Here, look how it's running down. You can see how wet I've been working it. And it's really just layering up these thin, kind of patchy layers. The paint never thickens up. It never gets opaque when I'm doing an underpaint. I always want to keep it really loose, but I can darken it by layering these thinly hatched strokes. But now I'm going to bring in some alizarin crimson and some ultramarine blue into that tone color, still keeping the paint really thin. And I'm going to darken. Darks. I've got more room to spread out over here, and I'm going to. Because it can get confusing, this orange underpainting, everything being so orange. When it stops visually making sense to us, then we need to go to something a little bit darker. That's what going to this kind of purplish is good for. The main mistake that I see people making is that they also want to thicken up. And when we're painting Alla Prima in layers of wet on wet paint, yes, thickening up is the way to go darker. It is the way to cover up and get more clarity sometimes as far as knowing what we're doing. When you're underpainting, thickening up is not good because the plan is to come back over top of this with the paint, the actual paint that we want to. I have been fond of saying that half the battle is making a value study before you do a painting, and the other half of the battle is actually looking at it when you're doing the painting. Let it help you. This is not going to help you if you don't look at it. The value study is a tool that's good for a lot of things. It really helps. It helps us, particularly with greens that can be so tricky because it's inherently a mid-tone value color. And so how we're going to choose which family we're going to send that in with in a no tan can be really make a big impact on the overall value key of the resulting painting. And we kind of got to think about that, because if we dive into it, the greens are going to all look like midtones, and we won't have clear decision making around whether they're going to be dark value or light value. And with things like these leaves, we also have a lot of leeway as far as the lines and angles and how they move through. Thank you. So this needs to get a little thinner. It's too fat at the base. It feels not as long as it should because I've made it too fat. So I put in some darks. I pulled out some lights. Now that angle is looking a little better because I lengthened this. Now it's looking more like the value study, hopefully. I love this stage, the underpainting, and I will often spend a lot of time here. I feel like the more time I spend making sure that my underpainting is good, that I understand what's going on with the composition, the drawing, my intentions around finishing this. This is part of the process of me taking my subject and starting to see it as a painting. And the more time I spend on this, the more successful I am, and the less time that I have to spend struggling around with the other stages of the painting too. One of the purposes of an underpainting with tonal is that we end up putting lighter paint over lighter passages that are on the canvas, and that kind of lightness underneath reinforces the brightness we create with on top. So light passages over light. It really is a foundation. It helps it feel more light. I got eggplant for my workshop. I demoed eggplant for you all, Disturb Economy eggplant for the demo in June. And I remembered how much I love painting eggplant. And so I got eggplant for my workshop this past weekend. Everyone turned up their nose. One person took me up on it for 20-minute paintings and did a beautiful job. But I got accosted by the man working at the grocery store who was selling the eggplant, because I took every single eggplant out of the display and was looking at all of them, and there must have been like 12 eggplants. He came over and he said, "Really not finding one you like? None of these are good enough?" Anyway, I have those kind of weird interactions with people at the store all the time. I'm ready to start color, I think. So I'm going to switch brushes from my number 2 round to my number 4 flat. Still not a huge brush for this size. This panel is 8x13. I'm happy. Now this is made mostly from ivory black and ultramarine blue. And then to that, I probably added at least the alizarin crimson, if not both reds, and the Hansa yellow. Transparent yellow is good for mixing dark greens. Opaque yellow like cad is going to lighten it, but there might be a little cad in this, but the dominant yellow is the Hansa, and then probably half and half ivory black, ultramarine blue. It's very obviously green to me, but I realize that it's coming across as black here. And particularly it's looking cooler because it's against all this warm orange. This warm orange underpainting has many advantages. It can make judging your colors a little tough, particularly when you're first starting to put color on. And so it's a good idea to work all around your painting and get a little bit of information established about the different colors so you can start judging relationships. I really want to generalize. I I'm thinking of possibly painting this subject larger. So my thoughts with this study this morning, this color study, oil sketch, is to figure some things out, particularly around how to simplify so that maybe I can make a larger painting. Maybe I won't. I'm coming into my mid-tone greens and I'm asking myself, meh, which ones do I feel warmer? Which ones do I feel cooler? Because some of these I feel have more of a purple influence, these greens, and some have kind of an orangey thing going on. And one problem with all my pre-mixed greens is that they don't have the third primary in them very much yet. Squint, squint, squint. That's darker. Yeah, you need some red in that green, even though it feels right. You put it on the canvas and whoa, and it's just too powerful. Gotta take paint really a lot of steps away from the tube to get it to feel naturalistic. Incredible. The difference between light and shadow in this, the dark greens of the bok choy are overall mid dark value. And so even the lights on this kind of mid dark value aren't very light. And the difference between the super dark darks and the light stuff isn't huge. Like the darks are very, very dark, and the lights are a mid dark. This green in the light is not as light as the ground in the light. This green in the light is probably about the same value as the white in the dark. Nice for me to have a handle on that. And treat this as a mini abstract painting. Why not? I am interested in seeing the accurate relationships between the shapes of these leaves. I'm real interested in getting them to turn in space, three dimensionality, solidity. But I am also interested in brushwork and having fun with that, as I always am. So, goals, tightness and looseness existing simultaneously. That's usually where I'm at. I'm adding the tone color to this green that I mixed. It's a great way to bring in red, yellow, and blue together, but with a red cast. Where there's more light, it might not necessarily be actually lighter. It might just be more green. I haven't put the ribs, the white ribs in. This thing is a folded over piece. It's all dark. Try mixing black and orange. What will happen? Well, if it's a cat orange, it's gonna lighten. I have said for a long time now, like, I don't need cat orange as a tube. And you don't need it. I've painted for a decade without even owning any cat orange. And then I did a couple paintings with it last month, and I really liked it. I really liked it. It was great to neutralize things with. And you know, you want to get real dark and bold, go for the ivory black. Why not? Let's put a little straight black on here. Touches, did that show up? It did show up, didn't it? Touches of color straight from the tube, no matter what the color is, whether it's black or red or what, are impactful. They're a weapon in your arsenal. Use them for good. Don't put it everywhere because it'll cease to make a statement if it's everywhere. This is all in shadow. It's okay to paint the big shadow shapes all together one thing. You can come in and put those tiny variations in later. Paint from the general to the specific means capture that whole big shadow shape as it curves across this leaf. Then you can come back in and put the little variety freckles. Not at all. If you leave it alone and give it a chance to be done for a minute, you may find. Let's go into my lights, those lights that I thought were not light enough. For that. They are light enough. They're just I've got a form shadow, cast shadow thing going on with this. This is this curved leaf. Putting some reflected light on that. And hitting the cast shadow again. I want that to be purple. I need purple in this. See it. It's really kind of a red violet that I made. I wish that I had a more blue violet. Let's just add some blue to it. I made this purple. I should have what I want. Point of making your purple and not using a tube. That looks almost as black as the ivory black. But I was starting to work into the light, so let's go back to that. Wipe off the brush. Gamsol, that's that sound. Me pushing in the jar. I have the Gamsol on a lid and the Gamsol in the jar. The lid is the clean stuff for adding to my paint as I'm painting. The jar, the jar is for cleaning the brush. In between values is when I want to clean it. Squint. See that shape. Squint and see this shape. Yeah, I just covered something. It's okay. It was too much of a detail. The general sense of that area before I can do the detail. And so that pure paint, yes, that's good. And let's put some yellow in it. Some cat yellow. It's kind of scalloped. When the paint doesn't want to stick to other paint, as you just saw, adding solvent-free gel. Haha. The cover. Nothing like fresh new paint. I'm all about storing my paint in the freezer, as you know, but a fresh new palette really is better. Squeeze this paint out just this morning. Good. As that travels down this red, it does get darker. I'm almost done here. I'm out of this color. Into green, perhaps some chrome oxide and some orange. And some ultramarine and some white, and some of that black that I made. Black green. Pre-mixing also helps me really know what I put in that stuff so that when I need to remake it, if I choose to do that with my brush, good to go. I know what it was, I know what I made it with. I was paying attention when I was mixing. I understand what's going on. There's a lot of really beautiful stuff happening right at the edges of these leaves. They have these kind of thick edges. And that I'm gonna need to work back and forth when I do the cast shadows. Now, move on. When I come down to the whites, now I've got some darks to look at, to work against. And I have a lot of white in the shadow. I have these greens, I have these like white ribs that live in the shadow, like this one that comes up through the shadow there. These are gonna be dark. Looking at the still life a lot, my head is moving. Usually you guys usually get to see my head and my face when I'm doing this. That's something that's really helpful. Maybe we'll look into having that. Okay. Into the whites. I don't want to start with the light part of the white. I'll start with the shadow part of the light. I'll compare it to some of the darks that I already have established. This is the darker white that I made. Quickly, as I was just painting those ribs on the leaves, this is what I was using for that, for white in the shadow. This is the paint that I'm about to try using for the shadow side of the white stem. Let's try it. Mm-hmm. And that paint doesn't feel like it wants to get onto the brush right. Some stuff in it. Dark enough. Darken it. I'll leave it for now. Put some Gamsol on it. Put some, that's more orange. Really put some warp right there. When I add that, it's going to darken it. That's why I feel that it's orange, because it is dark. If you're having trouble getting the paint to do what you want it to do, put some Gamsol on it. If that doesn't work, put some solvent-free gel on it. If that doesn't work, put some walnut oil on it. Just keep drying things. Great. Let's put some of the lights on to kind of see. Actually, I mean, there's darker dark. Maybe it's greenish. So, eyelashes before the setting of the eye. Charge here. Lights. This is what I mixed up for a mid-tone. Ooh, it's very blue. It's blue. Doesn't look blue on the palette. Gosh sakes. Pink on the palette. Look on the monitor. It looks blue, really blue. Okay. Let's try the thing I made for the white. White. The lightest thing in this painting is here. It's the rib of this deal that's so blue. I don't really know how blue that's going to look when I put some of this negative space in that is actually blue. So let's go with it for now, and then I'll go next to the blue negative space and see if we can get that working. Be aware of what is on your brush. If you run that brush into another area, it picks up some dirty paint. Notice what happened. You're going to have to clean it either in a rag or in your palette before you touch the canvas again, or you're just going to be moving things from one place to another. Every time my brush is leaving the canvas, when you see it go down, it's going in the palette. I'm cleaning it in the paint, going back into that pile of paint, and I'm just getting more. Keep warm this up. Stroke economy. How much do I really need to say what I want to say here? Anytime you put paint on top of paint when you're painting Alla Prima, you are picking paint up from that area. So just notice that. Notice that you've gotten it onto your brush. Use it. It helps. Like, it makes everything feel married to everything else. Cute leaf right here. Yes, it's very cute. The illusion of detail. There we go. These ribs are so green. I don't know that they're really that contrasty too much. No, I don't like that mark I just made. Go over it with paint. I'm gonna get the paint to go over it, not blend it with that same clean brush, because that will just mix it into whatever's around it. Paint over it. Big rib comes through here to fit. Not sure. I'm really twisting the paintbrush as I lay down the paint sometimes to make sure it all gets off. And there's another rib that comes out from this. I'm enjoying this subject a lot here. For me, I often just don't know what I'm going to like until I try it. Shoes, for example. And that's why I give these monthly challenge themes. They're optional. But I love seeing how some of you will like latch onto something and just say, oh my gosh, like, where has this subject been all my life? I love this. whether it's interiors or shoes or budding undiscovered plein air artists in our midst. I don't know. All right, so what do we got going on here? Good stuff. I said I was going to do some work in the negative space, and then I never did do it. Let's do it. Cast shadow first. And gosh, I'm even doing good on time. You know how you just wake up in the morning some days and it's like, yeah, he's good. He's pretty good. This is what this day is for me. Yesterday was born under a bad sign. A little blue halo for my cast shadow. Maybe make a blue-green halo for my cast shadow. I made this awesome blue-green. I haven't used it anywhere. What a beautiful color. It's probably a lot of iridian. Iridian on its own, I don't know, but it really is so lovely in mixtures. Go overboard with this. Okay. Those are my cast shadows. I'll paint my cast shadows with this gray that I made. My main question isn't, did I get the color of that cast shadow right? My main question is, how does the color of the cast shadow relate to the color of the greens? How am I doing value-wise also? Yeah, it's messy. I like a nice messy cast shadow. I get to clean it up with the light negative space. Down, evaluate, back to the palette, get more. That weird, like, side leaning leaf. The more times you touch these delicate areas, the more messed up they get. If you want them to be definite, make a statement, put them down once, don't touch them again. I have a lot of underpainting showing here. It looks like a lot of pinkness. I don't really like that. Probably it would be smart for me to just leave it alone though. But and by that I mean because then I can evaluate later whether I really like it, how much of it I want to keep. Yeah. Okay. Negative space. What's moving around? My value study tells me that my negative space intends to get lighter as it comes to the foreground. and that I intend for the lightest part of my negative space to be here. I like it in the value study. If I want to experiment around stuff like that, that's the place to do it. So let's see if we can stick to it. The darkest thing that I mixed for my negative space is very ivory black influenced gray, blue, purple. I'll be ivory black, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and white with some kind of yellow in it. But it's mostly ivory black. Slow down, get a little careful around that area. The darkness actually only goes down to about here. And then as I look at the relationship between this white rib and its negative space, it changes. It gets lighter again. And it's about to get greener too as it goes forward. So actually, that should be lighter. Not so sloppy. I don't have to know. Let it sit. Wait with it. So cool watching this, looking at this and seeing it next to the value study. Get a nice brush stroke. For God's sake, leave it alone. It's so hard. It's just hard to notice. We're going to do a temperature shift down to the front. Set this up so that I will be able to observe an actual temperature shift by putting a slightly blue paper. Now everything that happens over here is more dull. Actually feels a lot warmer to me on that side. I'm going to warm it up with orange. Not feel like cat shadow as I lighten what's next to it. Push that edge, clean it in the paint, come back to it. I think a lot of you just touch the canvas too many times without going back to the palette, scooping up more paint. We're painting Alla Prima, so we're picking up paint. supposed to be. But if you want to be redistributing it, you got to make sure what's on that brush is what you intend. All right, so I tried to warm that up. I think it worked. I want to smooth out these brush strokes. They are striking. And foreground. I mixed this green. This is going to be way obnoxious. Look at that. No, it's not too far off. I'm going to put some of the paint I mixed up for the white ribs in the light gel. I used a lot of walnut oil in the paintings I did last week. I was working back into old paintings and I rolled them out and I just kind of kept going with the walnut oil. Well, first I sanded the thing, and then I oiled it. But I got on this walnut oil kick and I was really using a lot of it. I gotta tell you, it is my favorite. Solvent-free gel. I like the solvent-free gel. I love it going out of the studio. It has uses. It really is pretty wonderful stuff. What tells us that something is shadow? That something is just a dark leaf. Here I am just sort of investigating my darkest darks again. Highlights and dark accents are the home stretch. This is really sticking out. Do I really want that sticking out that much? This is really sticking out. Definitely don't want that sticking out that much. What is that? That's paint. That's not underpainting. It's actually paint. This leaf comes across here. Mm. Nice. Better. I feel that I could noodle around with the lights, this stuff a lot more. I don't really think I want to do that. Like, I kind of like what's going on with it. Maybe I'll just give it a little more here. And look twice. Dark accents. Mess that leaf up. Sticky. It's so contrasty with the blue that it's right next to. Because it's next to the blue. Six out more. One, two. And I'm gonna hit that little frilly side leaf. Beautiful. Very close here. Hmm. In the last kind of half mile of painting, place. Last half mile of painting, the painting starts to have its own needs. It isn't as much let's look at the world as it's let's see what the painting needs. All right. Well, I am about to call this good. Haha. Yes, I am. I am. So, where's my signing brush? Here it is. It's just a liner by Princeton. And what I want to choose a color from the painting that isn't going to be too disharmonious and it's going here. So I don't want it to be that much darker. I could use the cast shadow color. I'm probably gonna use, yeah, this kind of purpley green, mid-tone gray. And anchor my hand on my other hand. Get my hair out of the way. Let's see. All right, so I'm back and now I'm in focus. What do you guys think? Any questions? Thank you. I had a really good time today. Thank you for joining me.